G'day everyone, it's SDS SuperCoach providing SuperCoach content for you. And I'm here to present, well, I'm not here. I've also got a special guest, but we're doing a SuperCoach watch list. We've had a bit of technical difficulties, but we're here to go. We're ready to go. Next to me, not for the first time this year, I'm sure, is Brad from SuperCoach, bro. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. What about yourself?
Yeah, doing all good. We finally got the video working, but I'm not sure how much time we've got to work with here. But we'll try to do this as quickly as we can. And yeah, we'll talk about more about our Footscray meetup in Brad's channel because we just haven't got time to do it, unfortunately, because like we record on Zoom. Well, for this video, we're recording on Zoom, so we just need to smash this out. So. Look, for so we're doing a SuperCoach watch list. I've got 5 players. Brad's got 5 players that we're both going to look at during preseason. Everyone's back at preseason training now, so let's go. So my first player is going to be Ben Long from the Gold Coast Suns. Obviously came from St Kilda. He's 353,000 as a defender. And I mean, if you think about it, there's no Butterick did his ACL late last year. Did his ACL as well last year, I believe, in Darwin against North, or it was one of the games, might have been Hawthorn. And obviously, Will Powell. I was actually at the game last season at Metricon when he broke his leg. That was a gruesome injury. So there's none of them to start the year, all playing down back. Stuart Dew has mentioned that he's going to use Ben Long off the half back line. So that's going to be very interesting to see because it sounds like they're going to use him off the half back. But we do got to keep in mind of Brandon Ellis, who finished the year off as a half back and played pretty well. So he's probably one to monitor in terms of Ben Long's potential. But he's certainly mid-price or down back that I'm certainly going to have a look on. Who's your first one, Brad?
Oh, for mine, I actually like that pick. I think Grundy is the one we should be looking at as a bit of a smoky for the ruck. I don't think anyone's really looking at him purely because he is Max Gorn. They're in the same side together this year. But I think if you look back in, I think it was 2012, Nat Nui and Dean Cox averaged about 110 playing in the same side. I think Grundy's probably more of a potential to get majority of the hitouts. And even if he does play forward, I think he'll get that DPP status playing forward. I just don't know what the ruck time between the split would be between both, but I think Grundy has an opportunity to score higher, and he's got one of the best midfields around. And I think it'd actually be a bit of a pod. So I think I'll be watching him really closely in the preseason to see. I'll probably even read the CBAs and how many he actually takes. Especially, I'm not sure, is there 1 or 2 games this year? Do you know?
For what, sorry?
For the preseason games.
There's going to be a practice game late February, and then there's going to be an Amy Series game the weekend after.
Yeah, okay. So if you take 70%, you're probably starting him just as a smoky. In the worst case scenario, he becomes a forward DPP. So, I mean, you look back on his stats too, and they're pretty crazy. Like, we haven't really seen him ever be rucking with anyone else bar Mason Cox, but he's averaged since 2018, he's gone 130, 130, 120, 115, and then had a down year last year of 103. Injury plague though. He only played round 1 to 6. They obviously iced him off, probably knowing he was going to Melbourne. So, but he still scored, 4 tons out of the 6 in those games. So it's not like he was out of form. It's just injury prone, and I think he's an absolute shout. I think he's just so underrated at this stage of the season.
Absolutely, mate. I reckon that's a great shout because if Grundy can spend the majority of the time in the ruck, then the world's his oyster in terms of being a SuperCoach option because he's just at such a valuable price for what he's certainly capable of. My next player is going to be a teammate for Brodie Grundy for this season. It's going to be Angus Brayshaw. He's at 550k as a defender. I think he's certainly one to keep an eye on because I think he's at a really good price as a defender with so many blokes at 600k. He's certainly a well-experienced bloke that we can keep an eye on. So he's currently actually in my side. But he's still on my watch list because I just need to see what type of role he's going to be. Is he going to be off the half back? Is he going to be inside mid majority? Is he going to be tagging? There's a lot of different roles Brayshaw could play, and that could be his problem during the season, is because, I mean, Melbourne could just flick the switch. All right, you're tagging this week, you're playing inside mid this week, you're playing off the halfback the next week. So there's certainly a lot of inconsistency, but if we can get a clear role by after the Amy series next year of what Brayshaw could be doing next season, he's certainly one to keep an eye on for me, and he's still currently in my side, but it's not a lock. So who's your next player, Brad?
I think you convinced me over that chat we had on Thursday. So I've been sort of thinking about him too. Not sure I have the balls to do it, but it's a good shout. I think Cunnington is one that a few people are watching close eye on. I can't get his stats up on my screen at the moment, but if you look at Footy Wire, he's been pretty consistent with the tons. I just can't see him playing a half-forward flank role. They've got, excuse me, they've got LDU in there, Simpkin, and I just think he's the one that really grabs the inside ball. I think Simpkin's more your outside sort of player. LDU's a bit of both, but I think Cunnington is, especially that DPP, and he's got that forward status. It's pretty easy that he would make top 6 forward. I can't really see him being out of the top 8, and I just think he's got the previous history to back up the numbers. It's more just whether his body can hold up what he's been through, and obviously Clarko, new coach, you sort of don't know what's going to happen, but I'm pretty sure he normally plays most of his players to their strengths, and if they sort of play bad, he actually just goes back to where they were initially playing. You'd know as a Hawks man, he doesn't flick the magnets too much with players that only really a one-role sort of player. So I think he's a good shot. If he was a midfielder, it'd be really irrelevant and you wouldn't even look at him, but that forward line, you're probably looking at, Cunnington, Taranto, Rosie, and there's only, Dunkley and a handful of other players that could really make that top 6, and I think he's an absolute shout for the preseason. Just see how many centre bounces he also attends. If it's under 50%, I probably won't look at him, but I think he's a good one to look at this season.
No, it's a great shout, Brad. I think North Melbourne would certainly be looking at a veteran inside that midfield rotation as well. The first midfielder of our watch list is going to be Dom Sheed. Now, we certainly got to keep a track of any niggles or concerns for him because he played one game last year, obviously injury riddled for that season. West Coast are sort of transitioning a bit as well. The midfield's wide open for opportunity, in my opinion. I don't think there might only be 1 or 2 players set in stone, but I think Sheed's certainly got the capabilities still in 2023 to be playing inside mid. And if you don't want to run a 5 premium midfield setup, then he could end up being your M5, M6 next to Hopper. So I think if you want to be really ballsy, you could run 5 premiums and then Sheed Hopper at M6 and M7. It's a bit bold, but if you want to go with that. But if you're looking at running a 4 premium setup, and we saw last year as well, Rao was pretty popular, Jared Berry. So it's not, and if you combine those prices together, that would roughly equal up to Dom Sheed and Jacob Hopper in your midfield. So I think it's not it's a possibility that you can add these guys into your midfield alongside your 4 premiums, and midfield's going to be where you mainly score from. And if you really want to load up on the midfield, then to get some points on the board, then it's not a terrible strategy. And I think Sheed could certainly challenge. I think Sheed would be a lock if Jacob Hopper went down at some point, if he went down at some point during preseason. So he's just one to keep an eye on. I know we've got Hopper to work with, but I wouldn't rule out Sheed. Who's your next bloke, mate?
Yeah, just quickly with Dom Sheed too. I think he is a good shout if, like you said, Hopper goes down, but I don't think I'd personally be starting 2 or 3 of these mid prices in the midfield unless we don't get enough rookies playing round 1.
Yeah.
And then, then you'd have to take out a premium or 2 in your forward line or back line, which is sort of segue to my next player. I think Salem. I've been talked into it a little bit by a few comments, sort of been researching. Probably not one I personally would have the balls to start. I think a bit of a risk at that price. But again, if we don't have enough rookies, he's averaged quite well. If you look at his statistics, especially in Footy Wire, he's averaged around that 90 mark for around 4 seasons now. So I think at the start of last year he was 514k, went down to 391. I think his role's more affected by Bowie than anything. Bowie is sort of playing his sort of role. So if Bowie's not named round one and Salem is, I think I would almost pick him. I mean, in 2021, he averaged 94.5. The season before that, 87.3. And in 2019, 90.5. So he's probably not going to be your actual keeper. He could be like your sort of D7 as the season goes on. But I just think he's one. Again, if we don't have enough rookies and you want to sort of have these mid prices, could be that year where he gets to 515k again. You sideways him for someone that's gone down, like maybe your mate Sis or something, who's played a weird role for one round gone forward, and you just sideways him assist like that. And you never know, these things can happen in footy, especially in SuperCoach. So he's my shout. He's my next one that I'll be looking at in the preseason for sure.
He's certainly going to be an interesting one. My one concern would be that he hasn't got a great scoring history in terms of averages, but we're just going to have to wait and see. Maybe he can take that next step. I mean, how old would he be? Would he be 26, 27? He's leading more towards his prime, I'm sure.
He's 27, so he's 28 in July, sorry.
28, okay. Yeah, so he's starting to head into his prime now. Gee, I'm getting old now. I do remember him getting drafted. So, all right.
I'm in the same year as Dusty, so you can imagine how I feel.
Oh, God. All right, so we're going to get into our second. Well, I'm going to get into our second ruck, and I'm going to go with Sammy Draper from the Bombers. So I think there was something before pre-season where Sam Draper said, "I want to be on Max Scorn's level as a ruckman," and I think that's really good ambition. And if that's the case, I mean, why can't he be the next Jared? Why can't he be Jared Witts of 2020? Be the Jared Witts of 2023? So he's at a similar price that Witts was at 390-ish K. And look, I think he's certainly capable. He's a very exciting player to watch when up and about. He won goal of the year last year. So, and he is one of the only Essendon players as well last year that didn't go to Spain or Ibiza. It was there was a bit of criticism from Kane Corns about the 34 Essendon players that went up to, I think it was 34 Essendon players that went up to Spain, which is, it's your opinion, it's his opinion, but I think players can do what they want in the off season as long as they're staying in good nick. But another thing as well that really intrigues me with Draper, I think it's clear that Essendon are one of the few sides in the competition that is a lock at the minute for me to have to be a sole ruckman club in their best 22. So I think we're going to look at that quite a bit, pretty importantly, because I think rucks are going to get subbed out at 3/4 time if they're running with 2 rucks with the new tactical sub rule. And I just think Draper, he just could be that mid pricer that's ready to explode, and he's certainly one to keep an eye on in terms of his form. I'll keep a good eye on him during the Pracky games and the Amy series as well. Who's your next player, Brad?
Yeah, not a bad one too. I just think the other thing with Draper is if he could lift his ceiling, he only scored 3 tons last year. If he could lift his ceiling, it'd be someone I'd consider. Like if he goes nuts in the Pracky, I might actually jump on. But I think it worries me a little bit too. Like he's a good shout, but we'll have to look at also players around that same price if we have to go sideways. I think that's a big thing with these players in the mid prices. We've got to have, a player or two either side of them that we can go up or go down if we've got the cash and not completely risk it. But yeah, if he goes nuts and tears it apart, and I think it's Phillips. If he's not named round one, he's one of the sole rucks there.
Yeah,
too,
surely he doesn't get a run, Andrew Phillips.
Yeah, so I think Drake. Yeah, he's a good shout, and he's only pretty young too, so he's got the scope to do it. So yeah, it's a good one. My next one is actually probably one I thought you would have stole, to be honest, and it's James Warple. He's been in the system. Well, this will be his 6th season, I'm pretty sure. We know in 2019 it was his breakout year. He averaged 97 there, and then followed up with 88, but only played the 15 games. And then in 2021 he played 20 games for 73. So I'm not sure you'd probably know a lot more what the go is. Is it his body, or is that the concern of just playing him in weird roles? But I just can't see why they wouldn't start him in the midfield. I mean, they got Newcomb, who's probably a better midfielder, but apart from that, you've got all these questionable ones that you've just recruited. So I think you'd probably get this, second most CBAs, and that's another thing we'll have to look in the two Pracky games. I think sometimes you got to take it with a grain of salt, but I think he's going to have to play the midfield. You don't got that many midfielders. You just got rid of O'Meara, so I just think he's got to be slotting in if he performs well with the preseason. But again, I'd only be picking one or two of these guys in the midfield. If you're picking him and Hopper or him and Sheed, it's maybe 2 out of 3, but I wouldn't go all 3. But I think he's a decent price as well.
Yeah, James Worpel, he's certainly get a lot of opportunity at Hawthorn for sure. I think Newcomb's going to lead the centre bounce attendances, but then you got Worpel and Ward. I think they're going to be the next two in line for sure in terms of those centre bounces. It's a big year for him. I think he's in a bit of strife. If he doesn't have a big year, you don't want to have a fourth year running of underwhelming AFL level football. That's for sure. Now,
didn't you guys get rid of a who was it? Like a Collingwood player that you guys recruited and he got delisted and he was playing at Hawthorn like a winger?
Yeah, Tom Phillips.
Yeah. Hopefully he's a Phillips type thing. Although you drafted Worpel from the start, didn't you?
Yeah, he's been around. I think we drafted him in 2017.
Yeah, fair.
So my final player, I could be wrong. No, definitely 2017. My last player is Taron Thomas from the Roos as well, who's listed as a forward at 295k, a mid forward. He gets on well with Clarko quite a bit. I was actually watching a video today from the gym, and it was Clarko telling some weird story. I accidentally watered my daughter's wrong plant. It was an artificial plant. It was just some weird story. And then Todd Viney came in and said, Taron Thomas just got given a rabbit for Christmas. So I think he gets on with, it's an odd one. He gets on with Clarko quite a bit from what I've heard. He could be an interesting option if Fife goes down as well. He's 18k less than Fife, whose place is 313k. So I think if Fife went down, he's certainly one to keep an eye on for sure. He's certainly capable. I mean, we saw in 2021, he's certainly capable of being a much better player than his current price tag. So he's a very good talent when up and about and when motivated and all that. Obviously, he had some issues last year with I think it's his grandma was passed away, which is obviously would have been a very tough time for him. So I think he's going to be a very interesting watch, and he could vie for a spot off that half back line. I think I've seen that in the rumours that he could be playing off the half back, and we all know in SuperCoach that's just free kicks, free marks, all that good stuff. So I think it's one to keep an eye on for sure. Who's your last player, Brad?
Imagine if he takes kickouts too. Everyone will jump on him, won't they?
Mate, absolute bargain at that price if he's taking kickouts.
They did it for Stevenson, didn't he? Take kicks as well, so who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah. My last shout, I reckon. I didn't realise how old he is. Guess how old Rowan Marshall is?
I know he was a mature age recruit. I think he's like 27, 28 now.
Yeah, bang on. He's 27. He just turned 27 in November gone. But I think here's a shout. He's one that burnt me in SuperCoach. I remember in 2019 on Facebook page, I was like, no, I'm not going to pick Marshall in his breakout year. He's, smashed out 110. I looked like an absolute idiot, and I've never really looked back. I think I ended up starting him the season after, and he averaged 103.7, played the 17 games. And then after that in 2021, lowered his average a little bit to 98. And then this year, 92, I believe. So I think the only concerning thing about Marshall is his durability. So he's the kind of player that if you do start him, you probably want Darcy Cameron as starting forward. So if you do want cover, or even a rookie that's 123k that has the green light on him on round one. But I think if his body holds up, there's concerns about this Tom Campbell, but he's been scoring all these points when he played with Ryder, who's a much better ruckman than both of them, to be fair, tap-wise anyway. So I think he's a decent shout. Like 4 seasons between 92 and 110 at that price, you're probably looking at him. I know Wits, English, and all those other players feel pretty overpriced. And if he's one that could be a steal and has the scope to do it, he's at the prime age, 27. It's more for me his body, but I think he's an absolute shout. So I'll be watching him in the Pracky matches, and hopefully, if Campbell doesn't get named in the Pracky matches, that's a good sign for us. Obviously, new old coach, which is kind of weird. But yeah, I think is a great shout. I mean, people were scared off last year when Campbell came in his side and Rowan scored 60 odd, but you probably at St Kilda, and it's late in the year, and you're not going to make the 8. You probably don't really turn up, do you, in the last round, like most of those sides that aren't going to finish in the final. So he doesn't really concern me about his scoring impact. It's just more his durability, but I think he's one that I'll definitely be looking at. I think he was even in my first team picker, to be honest. So yeah, he's the last shout for me. What do you think?
Yeah, he's a pretty popular option, Rowan Marshall. I think he's certainly capable of being a top 3 ruck for us this next year. If all things go well, we obviously need to track his injuries if there are any, because he's certainly shown in the past he's a little bit injury prone. So hopefully he can get that foot all good. I don't know what the status is on his foot. I think that was his injury. I think he had a bit of trouble with it for a couple of years.
Yeah, well, he's never played 22 games, so it could be his breakout. I mean, every ruckman has this. They'll be pretty inconsistent. They'll be playing with a ruckman that's teaching them as they're going the end of their career, and then all of a sudden they break out. And you want to be that year where you jump on. And if Marshall goes 115, 120, and you don't start him at the start of the season, you're going to be so far behind the head of the pack. So he's one that I'll definitely be keeping a close eye on.
Yeah, if he's going amazing those first couple of rounds, then I think he's going to have to definitely come in for us before those price changes are made. Look, so those, yeah. Sorry, Brad.
I said I'd happily burn a trade for that to happen.
Yeah. No, I'd jump right on it. So look, thanks guys for watching. No, it's been a hopefully our first of many videos with me and SuperCoach Pro. This will be uploaded on the Wednesday. This has been a fantastic insight for him to see what plays he's looking at, what I'm also looking at as a SuperCoach player. So look, I hope you guys have a good one. And yeah, we will see you in the next video. They'll be uploaded on Thursday. Cheers.